Hell Is Us is a game I heard about not that long ago on social media, and it was primarily because it was extremely demanding. It ran at like 30 FPS on an RTX 4090 or something like that. So I was curious, and being that there was a demo, figured why not check it out. So we're going to take a look at the game on both the RX 9070 XT and RTX 4090 at 4K, and we'll see how demanding it really is and what it's like. Now, I played through the entire demo, the first half on the 9070 XT, the second half on the RTX 4090 essentially. And it can be quite atmospheric. The beginning cutscene does grab you. It did look interesting, the story, and it looks pretty good, I have to say. Sound design is really good, actually. I do like a good sound design, and this one does grab you. It immerses you into that like creepy, mysterious atmosphere. I think it does a really good job in that regard. Now, the combat, on the other hand, I thought it felt a bit clunky, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna start here at the very beginning on the 9070 XT at 4K Ultra graphics, so everything maxed out with FSR Native AA. We seem to be getting around 40 FPS here in the forest on the 9070 XT, and the game's performance is actually pretty good as far as consistency of frame time, because I played through the demo. I didn't notice any stutters or anything like that. It was smooth in that regard, but being that it is an Unreal Engine 5 game, like I always say, is that going with the ultra graphical preset is normally not worth it, and using upscaling usually makes sense because of the performance gains that you get. But we can start by lowering the graphical preset. We're at 35 FPS currently with everything maxed out, the ultra graphical preset. So let's go ahead and knock everything down to very high. And as you can see, we gain around 10 FPS. That is a pretty big gain. 35 to 45, it's a pretty big gain. You could probably play the game like this, although personally I would like to get at least 60 FPS, but at the very least, it's smooth. There's no stuttering or shader compilation stutter or anything like that. The game's actually been pretty good in that regard. But since we're between 45 and 50, this is a perfect opportunity to go ahead and enable some upscaling. And we're going to go ahead and go from FSR Native AA basically to FSR Quality. We'll stick with FSR for now because it's familiar, and that does actually bring us pretty close to 60 FPS. And I have to say that moving the camera actually feels pretty smooth. One thing that does stand out though is that I do notice a bit of flicker, which is kind of common with FSR 3. Maybe we can inject FSR 4 when the game comes out, but I still don't know if I'm going to buy the game actually, because I don't know, the combat didn't really click with me. But again, the demo is pretty short, so, but either way, 4K, very high preset with FSR Quality on the 9070 XT looks pretty good, and it feels pretty good as well. I'm glad that Unreal Engine 5 has made it a bit easier for devs to put out, you know, good looking games, and I do realize that it's a very adaptable engine, but this game does kind of have that Unreal Engine 5 look. And if I was to point my finger at one thing that gives it that Unreal Engine 5 look, is just, well, first of all, it's the software Lumen. I'm not entirely sure if this game uses it, but I would have to say probably does, because it has that like bit of a grainy look. But anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and try some FSR frame generation, because we do actually have that here. We actually also have XeSS frame generation, but it's grayed out for us here on the 9070 XT. But enabling FSR frame generation takes us from 55 to 60, close to 110 FPS. And I have to say, guys, it actually looks really good. It looks like 120 FPS, extremely fluid, and I don't really notice any garbling or anything like that. And it actually looked pretty fluid even without FSR frame generation. As far as controls, it feels fine. I'm using a PlayStation 5 controller, very responsive. But to get back to that Unreal Engine 5 look, another effect that I can't stand is chromatic abomination, as I like to call it. And for some reason, this is in every Unreal Engine 5 game, and it's enabled by default. And in most games you can turn it off, but here it seems to be enabled and there is no setting to turn it off. Additionally, I noticed on the Witcher 4 tech demo that they showed earlier today, chromatic aberration was also enabled on there. You just can't miss it. And I don't understand why this is enabled by default. And it's not just Unreal Engine 5 games, by the way, others as well. For some reason, developers think that this is a good thing. I don't know, is it just me? I mean, it makes the game look like you have blurred vision or something. I don't really like it, but hey, maybe it's just me. But anyway, rant out of the way, 9070 XT, I'd say does pretty good in this game, right? I mean, 4K, even with just FSR quality, we were hovering around 60 FPS. Alright, so for the RTX 4090 footage, we'll focus on the second half of the demo. So this is once you make it inside the ruins, which is pretty much where we left off with the 9070 XT. You're introduced to the main enemies, and then you get attacked, you don't know what's going on, and some strange woman comes in trying to fight and save you, I guess, but we don't know who she is. But either way, she gets killed, and we end up taking her gear and her drone. We're gonna start with 4K, DLAA, and the ultra graphical preset. So same thing as we did with the 9070 XT, and kind of work our way down, I guess. But anyway, so inside here, we're actually able to get around 60 FPS at native 4K. And this area can be quite demanding, guys, and I think it depends on how the lighting is as well. So if you go to areas where there's quite a lot of light, it can be a little bit more demanding, and in darker areas it can be a little bit less demanding. But overall, I would say the 4090 does pretty well here at 4K. But again, like I said in all my Unreal Engine 5 videos, it's not really worth just maxing out the graphical settings in Unreal Engine 5 games, because I genuinely feel there's diminishing returns, and especially upscaling, it makes sense to use it. But either way, it's interesting to see, you know, how everything reacts. And I have to say, this looks really good, guys. The lighting is absolutely phenomenal. One thing Unreal Engine 5 games have done that I feel is pretty good is that the lighting is much better. Yes, sometimes it can look a bit noisy, depending on the type of denoiser they use. And I think things are going to get better with time. But either way, the lighting has improved with Unreal Engine 5 games. So that is a positive. And another positive about this game too is that, as you can see, right, our performance is pretty good. Yes, the game is demanding, but our frame times are pretty consistent, which is good. We want that. We want to see that more in Unreal Engine 5 games. Now, I wanted to try a little bit of DLSS upscaling here, so we'll set it to DLSS Quality. They do have an ultra quality setting as well, but since we're already getting 60 FPS previously, using DLSS Quality makes sense, and that takes us closer to 80 FPS. Now, I'm not sure if you're paying close attention, guys, but our GPU power consumption has gone down quite considerably, right? We're down below 300, and CPU utilization is quite high. So this was a bizarre thing that I found out about this area here. And mind you, I'd been playing for about 10 to 15 minutes with DLSS Quality, 61 FPS, 1% lows. Again, performance is really consistent, really good, but that CPU utilization in this area, in this dungeon, for whatever reason, is extremely high. Matter of fact, I tried to find out if we were becoming CPU bound or something. So I dropped DLSS from quality to balance. It took us from 90 to pretty much the same thing, 90, just sitting in the stairwell. CPU utilization is at 50%. So then I tried setting it to ultra performance. Now it's at 100, so not much higher at all, and GPU power consumption has dropped to 200 watts. So pretty wild that we appear to be CPU bound, just sitting in a stairwell here. Very crazy. But I ended up going back to DLSS Quality and pretty much finished the rest of the dungeon. So that was probably another 10 minutes or so. On 62 FPS, 1% lows. Again, game is really smooth in that regard. Now, 70 FPS on the outdoor areas. Actually, the 9070 XT wasn't that far off, although on the 9070 XT, we were using the very high preset with FSR Quality. Here we are using the Ultra preset, which is a little bit more demanding, but still, I think it's still a pretty solid showing for the 9070 XT when compared to the 4090 anyway in the outdoor areas. But I wanted to try DLSS Frame Generation, and there was an issue. After that enemy there ended up killing me, I enabled DLSS Frame Generation, and it said something about the game needing a restart. So I restarted the game because it hadn't kicked on, and even after restarting, the game is still at 66, 65 FPS, but then it was stuttering randomly. So I went back into the menu, and instead of on, I set it to auto, and then it seemed to work, but it wasn't really working right. Like, it kicked on, but it was quite inconsistent. So yeah, it looks like something's not right with DLSS Frame Generation. At least for me, it wasn't. I don't know if it's a bug or something. I mean, it's clearly engaged, as you can see, but it's not very smooth, and it keeps running into some stuttering issues. So yeah, it's almost like it's disengaging, then engaging for whatever reason. FSR Frame Generation, as you guys saw earlier, that was working fine, as you would expect it to. I think you get solid performance with just DLSS Quality, that it's not really all that necessary. As a matter of fact, you can just set DLSS to performance, disable any type of frame generation, and you'll get around 100 FPS anyway. And we do appear to be CPU bound, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, guys, hell is us. I mean, it is a demanding game, but it doesn't seem any different than other Unreal Engine 5 games that use these type of features. Now, as far as the game, like I said, I find it to be quite atmospheric. It is an atmospheric game, and the sound design is actually really good. I mean, this is a very small sample. The demo was rather short, but I felt the sound was quite immersive, because if you were to disable the sound, the game wouldn't be nearly as creepy as I think it is. Anyway, I mean, the enemy design is pretty cool, but I felt the combat felt a little bit clunky. Maybe it could do with a little bit more polish. I do like pairing in games, and in this one I felt like the enemies, some of their attacks, and maybe I need to get used to them more, but it just didn't feel as refined as perhaps I'd like it to be. But either way, the demo I felt was pretty cool, and it might be worth taking a look when the final release comes out. But as far as performance goes, it's another Unreal Engine 5 game that I feel is well optimized. I mean, again, I try to separate demanding with optimized. It's not the same thing. A lot of people seem to think that a game is unoptimized when it's demanding. Not really. An unoptimized game will have performance issues, it'll stutter, it'll be inconsistent, but a game can be demanding and be optimized as well. So that's my thoughts. Leave yours down below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And let me know what you think about the demo if you've checked it out. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.